The next one is ripe, the ripeness of the food. There's no food in nature that can ripen as well as it does on the vine as it does off the vine. As soon as you pick a food, it starts losing its nutrients and so on, but even more important, if it's picked before it's ripened, it doesn't have all the nutrients that are supposed to be in there. Now, most people today are eating unripe foods because they don't have a choice, because the people that are selling the food, they want to save as much money. They want the food to go bad as soon as possible, so they pick it. Even like when an orange is green, they pick it. I didn't know the difference between ripe food until I started to grow it myself. And then I saw the difference, and I realized that's why I didn't like fruits and vegetables growing up. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you've ever had an unripe persimmon, you know what I'm talking about. It's a big difference. Or any other unripe fruit. An unripe banana absolutely doesn't taste the same way as a ripe banana does. Raw, ripe, the next one is fresh. People ask me, if I eat 100% raw food diet, why do I need enzyme supplements? As soon as you pick a food out of the ground, it starts losing enzymes. 2 weeks after a food is picked and sitting on the shelf, you've lost up to 50% of the enzymes that were in that food. The majority of foods I get, I make sure the food's as fresh as possible, but I know there are some foods that have been out of the ground, some even longer than 2 weeks, even though they're still called raw. So the fresher, the better. And chances are, it doesn't necessarily always mean this, but chances are local will be fresher. So raw, ripe, fresh, and then the next one was organic. Organic. Now we know about the bug sprays and how bad they are and so on, but it's a lot more with organic food. It's why we overeat. Is the soil is demineralized. The minerals that are supposed to be in that food cannot be in that food if it's not in the soil. And when you eat food that's grown in unorganic soil, that's what happens. And it makes us overeat, because even though we're eating that food, we're not getting what we need, and we crave more food. So we need to make sure that we get organic foods from organic soil. The next one is live food. People ask me, what's the difference between live food and raw food? When you pick a raw food out of the ground, it starts losing its enzymes, its nutrients, and so on. And the longer you wait before you eat it, the more it loses. For an example, take a carrot that can be technically raw, and after a couple of weeks you can actually bend it. It's lost many of its nutrients. A live food, on the other hand, like a sprout, is growing after you pick it. It's still multiplying, it's still growing in nutrition, in enzymes, and so on. The live foods are things like the sunflower sprouts, the bean sprouts, the rice, the grain sprouts, and so on. Let me give you another example about sprouts. One of the worst foods you can put in your body is grains and beans in their cooked form. One of the best foods you can put in your body is raw sprouted grains and beans. So it's not just what food we're eating, it's how we're eating it. And we're going to talk about that in a little while with the formula for health. So raw, ripe, fresh, organic, and live. These are 5 of the things we have to think about when we go to make a food choice. So that's why we overeat from a physical standpoint. Now, we also overeat from an emotional standpoint. And the way we overeat from an emotional standpoint is this. If we're doing things that emotionally control us not to be satisfied, and we eat these so-called comfort foods over and over again, and we're never feeling happy, we're never feeling comfortable, we're looking to get our comfort from food, I don't know why they call them comfort foods, they never make anyone feel comfortable. So, but first, before I tell you why we overeat emotionally, I have to say the difference between a habit and an addiction, because many people think they're the same thing. A habit and an addiction is not the same thing. A habit is when we do something on a regular basis that we enjoy, when we find out it's bad for us, we break that habit, we stop doing it. However, an addiction is when we do something on a regular basis that we enjoy, when we find out it's bad for us, we make excuses to keep doing it. We need to change our excuses and our addictions into habits and break them. Now I'm going to tell you the most popular reason we overeat, the most addicting things in our life, even more addicting than food. I mean, food's addicting enough. Morris Kruk, one of the people I've interviewed, said more people die in the kitchen than any other room in the house from overeating. But there's something more deadly in our house, more addicting, and it makes us overeat. If you truly want to be healthy, get rid of your TV sets. Get rid of your TV sets. Now, actually, it's TV programming that the problem is, because it programs us. Not necessarily TV, because I have some DVDs here. It's TV programming. It programs us to do things we would never think of doing. That's how people are. The things on TV today just drive us so insane where it makes us do things we could never justify, but we do them anyway. It programs us. We need to be careful with that. I have a rule about TV. Unless I'm on it, don't watch it. You know, I challenge you for a whole month, put your TV in your closet and see how much better you feel. And I don't mean with the door open and the TV plugged in. Stop watching TV for a month and see what happens. You'll feel so much better. You know, people are just addicted to TV and they don't have time to be healthy. Some people make the excuses, but there are some good things on TV. If you have 2,000 channels on your TV and 2 channels have good things, chances are those bad things are getting in. We need to understand sleeping is so important. Well, what keeps us from sleeping? TV. And the things on TV and so on. If you don't think it controls us, if you don't think the advertisers know they control us, why would they pay, the advertiser during the Super Bowl will pay $6 million for a 15-second commercial? They know they got us. They know how to control us. If as many people voted for the Organic Food Act that voted for American Idol, we wouldn't be in this situation to begin with. The TV has us. Some people aren't here tonight because they're home watching their so-called show and all this other stuff. I go to people's houses and say, oh, Paul, I would love to come to your lecture, I just don't have time. I go, really? Then I go to the house and they're doing crazy things like watching the Weather Channel for 2 hours a night. And it's not even where they live. TV just is a wasting our time. And that's what's happening to us. Now, for some reason, if you think you can't get rid of TV, at least get rid of the worst thing on TV. The most addicting thing on TV, the news. Do you know more people die watching the news than any other time of the day? Now, if you're watching the news in the kitchen, you're in big trouble. But that's what's happening. There's nothing, it's just the most fearful living thing out there. It makes people live in fear, emotionally overeat, and half of the things on there aren't true. People say, well, if we don't watch the news, how do we know what's going on in this world? I guarantee if something enough is important enough is going to happen, you need to know about it, somebody will tell you. I have people call me up all the time telling me when something bad goes on. You don't need to spend watching the news for hours and hours and hours and hours. People say, well, how do we know what the weather's going to be? This is why they make windows in houses. You don't need to sit watching the news and so on. We need to understand what the problem TV's happening to us. And it goes into a bigger problem than TV. What it really goes into is another reason why we're dying and we're unhealthier than ever before. It's technology. Technology, if used with wisdom, can save our life. But it's commonly used with no wisdom and it's killing us. People used to exercise and be fit, and still, at least in New York, when I visit New York now, I still see people walking on the street, but just about every other state in the country, they don't do that. They don't walk because they have all this technology to get them from point A to point B. I was in the airport in Atlanta the other day, the police don't even walk anymore. They're on this thing that just takes them where they need to go. And they're so lazy they can't even press the button anymore, they just have to lean forward and it takes them where they need to go. Technology is destroying us. How did I learn this was, there was a friend of mine who I didn't see in many years, and he came to meet me at a talk one night, and he came to the door, and he was more obese than I've ever seen him before. And I'm thinking, I wonder what's going on in his life. Well, that night when we were going to his house, we were walking to his car. This is just a good example of what technology does to us. We're walking to his car, the headlights are on, the car's running, the door's wide open, and the window's down. I'm like, I don't know, that's your car. He said, yeah. I go, well, somebody's stealing your car. He said, no, that's this new remote control I have. Instead of just opening the locks, it opens the door, it opens the headlights, it starts the car, and so on. I'm like, how lazy can somebody be? Until we get in the car. This man had a remote control for his car stereo. How lazy can you be when you just can't stick your arm out and change the station? But we have all this technology today that we think is helping us, but it's not. Now, I'm all for technology. I use my cell phone if my car breaks down in the middle of the desert, which there probably won't be a signal anyway, but I'm going to try to use it. But their brain tumors are up more than ever before because people aren't using cell phones for emergency. People say, oh, I got this cell phone for an emergency. Well, then why'd you go over your minutes yet last month and you have 1,000 minutes a month? You either have a lot of emergencies or you're using it for something else. You know, we need to understand what's happening. So I get in this guy's car, we're driving, we get to his house. And we're pulling up to his house. His lights are on, his front door's wide open, the TV's on. I said, man, I thought you lived alone. He said, I do. I said, somebody's breaking in your house.